Welcome back, America. We're here with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Two kind of related questions, Mr. Prime Minister. Number one, the cultural rot in the West didn't start today, particularly when it comes to evil versus good. And furthermore, I'd be curious about your thoughts about what has been taking place at this main hospital where Hamas is really dug in and your folks are really trying to do the right thing. Can you answer those questions?
Yeah, in 1933, shortly after Hitler came to power, the Oxford Student Union in Britain had a debate. And 2-1, they had a resolution that they will not, under any circumstances, fight for king and country. And you know what that did. They had to change their way because they understood they wouldn't have a king and they wouldn't have a country and they wouldn't have an Oxford if they didn't fight. So they ended up fighting in the battlefields and fighting well until Nazism was destroyed. It's the same thing here. I mean, this is a moral indictment of higher education in the West, that you have colleges and campuses that are aligning with the new Nazis and not with those who are fighting them. The second thing on the hospitals, this is not the hospital you know. It's not what you see in your neighborhood. It's hospitals that have been commandeered by Hamas, used as command and control centers. We found weapons, we found ammunitions, and there were plenty of terrorist chieftains there and their terrorist subordinates, and they fled when we entered. So these are not hospitals. We were able to clear them out without, happily, without combat, without a firefight. But we have to, we cannot allow them to have these safe havens in hospitals. We give civilians in Gaza humanitarian safe zones. Hamas gives its fighters, its terrorists, safe zones in hospitals. That's absurd. The last thing I want to say is this. Look, I have 3 goals. One goal is to defeat Hamas, utterly defeat and destroy Hamas. The second is to bring back our hostages. And the third is to ensure that we don't have a similar threat in the future from Gaza, and that what happens in Gaza is good for Israel, good for Palestinians, good for the Middle East. And to do that, we need to demilitarize Gaza and de-radicalize Gaza. We cannot have, it mean for the foreseeable future, Israeli overriding military responsibility, so we root out the terrorists, and a civilian regime administration that cooperates with demilitarization and de-radicalization. And that can't be a Palestinian government that doesn't fight terrorism, but funds terrorism, that teaches its children to hate Israel, to work for Israel's annihilation. We need something else. We need a massive reform here, the kind that you had in Germany, the kind you had in Japan, the kind you're having in certain parts of the Arab world. That's what will ensure a bright future for the people of Gaza, for the people of Israel, for everyone.
Are you concerned, Mr. Prime Minister, and you read it mostly through leaks, but more and more public statements by various governments, our government, governments in Europe, that they're already trying to decide for you and the people in the area what is needed, how they're going to do it? I mean, you just pointed out that Gaza was basically the two-state solution. The Palestinians were given Gaza, and it was turned into a terrorist military operation. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, what would they do with an entirely new country? Would they have an air force? Could they have missiles? Can they build chemical weapons? Who's going to make sure they don't? Who's going to oversee that? So what you're saying is what we did in World War II. We had a Marshall Plan, but first we denazified Germany. We had to destroy the religious views of the empire there. In other words, there are cultural things that have to be done before you're busy setting up something else, correct?
Yes, because otherwise what you're going to get is the same thing. And Hamas already says they'll stay there and they'll do it again and again and again. Well, you have to defeat Hamas, but you can't get a new Hamas to emerge there. And who's going to do that? Who's going to prevent the terrorists from coming in? Those who refuse to fight terrorists? No, Israel. And who's going to make sure that we de-radicalize, to denazify, in your words? Well, we have to have a force that is committed to a different future for the Palestinians. I mean, they're stuck in this rabbit hole, in this never-ending loop of seeking to destroy the Jewish state. That's what's keeping this conflict alive for the last century. It's not the absence of a Palestinian state, it's the presence of a Jewish state. They could have had a state. They were offered that in the UN resolution of 1949, refused. They established the PLO in 1964. 3 years before we had Judea Samaria, the West Bank and Gaza, it was in Arab hands. The organization, the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, was set to liberate Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, Israel. The persistent refusal of the two wings of the Palestinian society, the PLO and the Hamas, to accept a Jewish state in any boundary. That's what keeps this conflict going. And unless you treat that, all you're doing is you'll destroy this terrorist state that was built in Gaza, and it'll emerge again because you haven't done anything to change the ideology. You haven't done anything to these people who you want to put in there, people who pay for slave. They pay the terrorists and their families. The more number of Jews they murder, the more they pay them. They teach their children that you have to liquidate Israel. Their leaders now applaud every week what Hamas did. I'm talking about the moderate branch, so-called moderate branch. And their leader to date, almost 40 days after the conflict began, refuses to condemn the savagery that was perpetrated. These are the people you want to entrust us? No, we need a different future. The Palestinians deserve a different future. Peace requires a different future. It requires, for a foreseeable future, Israeli overriding military control, a de-radicalized and de-militarized Gaza. It's possible to do it. I know that there are Arab states who can contribute to this. I know that there are others who can contribute to it, but we have to be clear about what we need. We need demilitarization and de-radicalization. Nothing else will suffice. But if we do it, there'll be a better future for all.
And I'll say this for me, and what you don't need is an American administration that keeps pumping billions and billions of dollars into the umbrella operation, and that is Iran. And until Iran's addressed, I don't see a great deal of peace breaking out in the Middle East.
I think, by and large, I think that President Biden and the administration have done great things for Israel. I have to say this, because he came here, he stood with us, they were supporting us with arms, they were supporting us in many other forms. I appreciate that. We can have our differences here and there, but I think we're agreed that we have to defeat Hamas. We agreed that there shouldn't be, except a temporary ceasefire for the return of hostages, there shouldn't be a ceasefire with Hamas. We have to have that victory. And I also see the support of the broad swathes of the American people on both sides of the aisle. Senators, congressional representatives, and ordinary citizens, pastors, community leaders. I'm highly appreciative of that. In the end, you know what the terrorists say in Iran and in Gaza? They say there's no difference between Israel and America. America is the great Satan. Israel is the small Satan. You know, in one way, they're right. They say we are you and you are us. In the deep cultural sense, they're right. So let's stand together.
All right, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you. God bless you. And our best to all of our Israeli brothers and sisters over there.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.